Okay, so we're going to have a look at exercise 5.3, and I'm going to start off by drawing the really the component of this product which guides everything else, and that's this kind of side part, which is the most distinctive part of it, but also the part that you can use in order to build everything else. So the dimensions are here, and it's good actually a good idea usually to start with. A rectangle, and I'm going to start with a rectangle of 450 by 1000. Actually, what I want to do is I want to make it kind of standing up rather than laying on the ground, which will make my life easier later. And you can see it's sometimes when you've got absolutely nothing on your drawing, it's a little tricky to rotate the view around a little bit the way you want it. So I'm just going to, just randomly, just to help the view, draw this line. And it's for no other reason uh, other than just letting SketchUp know that that's what I'm looking at. And you can see now that my view rotating around it kind of rotates around what I've drawn rather than just kind of randomly rotating. Okay, so I want to get it into that view because when you're in a view looking at your drawing at your axes like this, what you can do is you can draw your rectangle from the origin, but you can draw it upright rather than on the ground, rather than horizontal. So I'm going to then type in my dimensions, which just let me remind myself, they are 450 by 1000. And there they are. Now I've got those in there, and you can see now I have an upright rectangle, which makes my life a little easier. I'm just going to delete that line because now I actually have something for my view to rotate around. So the rest of it I'm going to draw using guidelines. You can see this height here is 100. I've got a distance here of 800, which means then if the whole length is 1000, I've got a distance in of 100 from each side, and you can see that the thickness of the legs is 70. So I can do those real quick using my tape measure tool. So that's going to be 100, 100 there, 100 there, and then 70 in here, 70 in here, and that's the basic outline of the shape that I need. So what I can then do is, just to get the basic outline of the shape, take my pencil tool and then just draw from intersection to intersection right here, and then do the same thing from this intersection to that intersection to that intersection to that intersection, which means then I've got that as my basic outline for my product. So deleting the pieces I don't need is really easy because I can drag this way from right to left, and that means that it selects anything it touches. So anything it touches in this case means that middle part plus the line at the bottom, and doing it here means that's gone. Doing the same thing here means all those are gone. And now I have my shape, and I got that to that point super quick, and I know that it's accurate because I used guidelines. So my guidelines now are no longer really useful to me, so I'm going to just delete those using the same method that I just used by dragging from right to left. In other words, the mode of selection that selects anything it touches. And what I also then want to do is, before I push pull into any kind of 3D shape, I want to make sure I get these radii on the corners. And just checking back with the booklet, you can see the radius in this corner is 60, and obviously then on the other corner it's also 60, but then on all these others it's 30. So let's get that done. So I do that by taking my arc tool, and this is a good way for me to just repeat to you over and over again this method, because it is one of the trickiest things in SketchUp to remember. So I click anywhere on this edge, and I drag out my arc, and I go to any, well, not to any point, but I go to that point there where it says it's a tangent, And you'll also notice that it becomes this pink color. Click again, and then I've got an arc which is anchored at those 2 points. And there's only one point where it's actually a tangent to both of those edges. And I move it to there. Now I don't click at this point. All I do is now type the radius I want it to be. 60 is my radius. Hit the enter key, and what it does is it creates my radius, but it also trims the corner of all the pieces that I don't need. I'm going to now go over to my other corner because SketchUp has now remembered that radius of 60, and I'm going to just double click right about here. Now you can see at the end of my little pencil, at the end of the pencil here on my cursor, it's got a blue square. That's when you have to double click. If you double click when the square here is red when it's touching the line at the edge, it won't do what you want it to do. What I do now is double click, and it does the same 60 radius there. Now I could go over and do the same thing here, except for the fact that I actually don't want a 60 radius, I now want a 30 radius. So I have to start again, go back to my arc tool, click on this edge here, drag out another arc to here until it turns purple, click again, and now I have my arc anchored at 2 points, and I move. If you have trouble getting it to go purple, what I generally do, let's just zoom in a little bit, is go along the line until it turns purple, like that, type in 30, boom, done. Now what I can do, you can see, if I go along, double click here, does the same thing, back over here, same thing, and very quickly now I have the shape that I need in order to continue, which we will do in the next video.